up guys, Eagle Sci-Fi Mauler today. Today on the bench we have the Bandai Star Wars 172 scale A-Wing Starfighter. So I look forward to this build. As you can see, I've already assembled the 144 scale, which actually gives you two of the little starfighters that are nicely detailed. So this one should be twice as big. This one runs about 2 3/4 inches long. Let's put this back over here on its display. And let's take a look and see what we have here in the box. So of course, with always, we have nice color instruction guide, kind of a fold out with all the different parts. A little overview of that. Give you a nice color breakdown, picture of the palette for painting references. So you have nice references. The kit does include a display stand that has the turbo laser turn on it, which is pretty cool. Looks like you can have landing gear or not landing gear, so that's cool. Let's take a look at what we got. Alright, so obviously we've got the body molded in white, and other parts of the body molded in this kind of rust brown color or rust red color, however you want to look at it. Looks like we have some clear pieces. Looks like we have two canopies. Not sure what they look different, so I'm not sure what that's about. Probably some kind of options for painting. Looks like we have some clear engine nozzles for lighting purposes, and we may light it. I'm undecided on that at the moment. Looks like we have some decals for different things. Looks like there's an instrument panel and some ship markings. There's also some more decals in this one too. So we've got a couple sets of decals. The base with the turbo laser turn, very cool. We have some black parts. Gives you, I guess this is just a reference size. It's kind of a flat silhouette of a person. I guess that's just for scale reference. I'm not sure. It looks like we have some the seat and probably the interior with some other pieces. Looks like the lasers are here. Here we have the pilot. It's fairly nicely detailed. And so there we go. A quick review. And I think how I'm going to do this is I'm not going to do a total repaint of these parts. They're already molded in the right color for us. I think we'll do some weathering on it, see how that goes, see how it looks, and see if we can achieve a nice looking thing. I'm all about not making things. I'm all about making things simple. So I think if we try to paint a color that it already is, we're just kind of wasting steps. But it's up to you. You can do it either way. I think that's the way we're going to go with this one. I don't see the need to total repaint. I think we can achieve a nice looking model. Obviously we'll have to paint the palette and address some of the other things that are going on, but I think we can do that without doing a total repaint of the model. So let's get started. Alright, so here we are. You can tell that I have a lot of it assembled. Things I've left off so far are the guns and the canopy for obvious reasons. It just makes it easier. You can see that I've started on the weathering of the ship. It's come along quite nicely. Everything's fit together really well. I haven't had to glue anything, I don't believe. I did have a few minor fit issues where I had to trim some of the parts that fit in together, but very minor. It resolved pretty quickly. Most of the seam lines are hidden pretty well in the connecting point, so it's looking good. Again, nicely detailed. I haven't painted it like I said before. I'm just going over right now. I'm in the phase where I'm weathering it using oil paints. These are just basic oil paints you get at a craft shop. I happen to have a lot of these. My wife likes to paint pictures and stuff, so I have a lot of these type of oils. Great thing about them is you just have a lot of time to work with it. So just again, there's more weathering steps. We're going to do some dry pastels. This is the initial just darkening of it. I didn't want to go too dark on it. I still wanted the ship to have a lot of its colors really present in it. But that's up to you. The thing is, when you're doing these, do it to how you like it. You know, it's all about having fun, enjoying, and creating something that you like. So I'm really pleased with this. You can tell where I've not weathered this yet. I've just started here. So just kind of recap what I do is I take some of this black oil paint, and I also have some browns, some whites, some burnt ochres. But I just kind of put it in here. You see it looks really dark, and I'm really trying to work it into the seams and into the corners where it'd be much darker. I then take some thinner and start brushing it in. And it's kind of the process, I call this the paint and wipe technique. I take my towel here and I start cleaning up the part itself. If I take off too much, that's okay, because I can come back and put more on. I try to go in the direction that the ship travels. That way, if it does have some minor streaks, which is kind of what I want, they're going away in a normal place. So you can see it's darkened up those lines. We've got some discolorization. We've got some dark in the recessed areas where dirt would collect. And I'm really liking that effect. I'll go back over with some whites in this rusted area, and we'll kind of clean up in there. Again, we'll take some thinner and brush that in, and just kind of dirty that up. See if I can get that in the camera for you right. And it's going to leave some minor white streaks in there. Sometimes you don't have to wipe with a rag if you get that desired effect. I'm trying to bring out some of the detail and also discolorization. So that's looking good. That's where we're going with that. Like I said, we still have dry pastels to do. Once I complete this phase, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mask off. There's some areas on the ship. Let me set this down. There's some area on the ships that have some gray panels. We have looks like some here. Looks like we have some on the fins of the ship or the tail of the ship. And almost like they've been replaced, like there was damage and they replaced it with different parts. So we'll come back after we finish this stage of the weathering, and we'll do in those gray panels. We've also painted the pilot. We're still working. There may be a little bit more detail on him. I think I got his colors pretty close. Maybe not exact, but good enough for me. This is not my strongest area. Still working on my figure painting. But he's looking pretty good. Pretty close to what I see in the picture on the instructions. Everything's going good. Again, the canopy's still off. The gun's still off because I want to do all this painting and put dry coats. The last part I'll put on will be the canopy, because I obviously don't want to get any clear coats on that and make it hard to see through. So it's looking good, and when I come back, we'll see where we're at. Alright guys, so here we are. I've finished doing my first weathering with the oil paints. I've since then sealed it in with some Tester's dual coat to kind of protect it, keep it from coming off. The next phase I want to do is hit these gray panels that are on the model. We have various ones throughout the model. You can see my extremely ugly masking off job. It doesn't have to look pretty, it just has to keep the paint from going places I don't want it to go. I went ahead and set up my paintbrush. I'm using Vallejo light gray, and it's all loaded to go. So we're just going to start hitting some of these panels. Alright, so we go. I'm going to let that dry for a few minutes, and then I'll come back and maybe do a little second coat and see where it's probably going to need a second coat on this. And then once I finish doing that, I'll of course unmask it, and I'll hit it again with some more dull coat to kind of make sure we don't lose too much of the gray area. And then from that we'll go on to start weathering, because now we have to weather these gray panels that we've added on to it, and we'll start getting into our dry pastels. So that's where we're at, and we'll just keep moving forward. Alright, so here we are with the finished model. Let's take a quick look at it. I'm going to pull it off the stand here. We'll talk about the stand in just a minute. Everything came out pretty well, I thought. Once we finished with the gray panels, we went back in with some dry pastels and did some weathering around the edges of it, just to make sure they didn't look like they were brand new. I thought the panels turned out really well. Now you do get an option with, they give you both decals and stickers to do the paneling with, if you wanted to. They also give you these brown decals and stickers to do the tips of the guns. I actually mixed up some paints with some reds, some browns, and actually a little bit of gunmetal. And I thought I did a pretty good job at matching the color. I spray painted. I first primed the tip of the guns and then spray painted with my airbrush that color onto it, but I thought I managed to get it pretty accurately on there. So we did all that with the dry pastels. We added some decals to certain spots. I think I actually still need to put a few more on. They're really small. And there are some inside the cockpit as well that you can do. And after I did all that, I went over a flat coat, and I did the final flat coat with Alclad's clear coat, or flat clear coat. This is a really good product as far as dulling it down and making it look good. So again, we didn't have to do any base coats, but we still got a nice looking model at the end of it, especially if those flat coats really gets rid of that plastic look. We did our oil weathering and our dry pastels. We did some painting just because I think the paint looks better than decals when it comes to these panels and the tips of the gun. And I did some dry brushing with a little bit of steel on the weapons to get a little bit of weathering and detail look on those. So there we go with that. This is the 172. Let's do a side-by-side comparison with the 144. Overall, I think they look pretty accurate to each other. I kind of went off what the instructions. They give you very nice instructions. I probably went a little bit darker on some of the weathering than what they have, but that's my preference. I think this turned out well, and just looking at a shot from the movie prop, I think we came pretty close. Obviously, we didn't light this one. I'm still able to light it. This section will pull off. It's not glued in, and maybe in the future I can come back and light it if I decide to do that. Think about maybe in the future a diorama incorporating these other things. Just a little bit about the gun turret that was included. Once it was assembled, I went over a black wash, and I just made a black wash using some black acrylic paint, mixed in with some thinner. Went totally over it, let it dry for a few minutes, and then wiped the vast majority off of it. I then went in and masked off some areas, and with my dry pastels darkened them in. And once I got all that finished and let dry, I did a dull coat over it, and then I went over with some surface primer with my airbrush with a very light coat just to kind of tone it all down and give it a more uniform look. And then of course I did some gunmetal paint to paint the barrels, and I did the same with the base as far as the wash and then the final coat over it. So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you like the model. And until next time, everybody have a good one.